In 1860, James Spratt, a lightning rod salesman from Cincinnati, Ohio, landed in Liverpool and noticed that the dogs hanging around the docks seemed to live on old ships' hardtack. As he made the journey onwards to London, it occurred to him that here could be a business opportunity. Waste food, rotten meat and other ingredients cost next to nothing to buy and could readily be turned into dog food and sold for a substantial profit. The history of what was generally known as dog bread actually goes back to Roman times. Et faris sordes mordere canini, said the poet Juvenal in the 1st century, which more or less translates as he bit into the filth of a dog's bread. But it was James Spratt who turned it into big business. My name's Jonathan Self, and I'm one of the founders of Honey's Real Dog Food and the author of the Natural Feeding Handbook for Dogs. This video explores the history of processed dog food and looks at how modern manufacturers are following a business model that hasn't changed for over 150 years. In 1804, Richard Phillips published a guide to the itinerant traders of London that included an engraving of a cat and dog meat seller. A handcart contained horseflesh, bullock's livers and tripe cuttings, and the author went on to say that although this is the most disagreeable and offensive commodity cried for sale in London, the occupation seems to be engrossed by women. Perhaps the absence of any unpleasant odour was part of the appeal of Spratt's patented meat fibrain dog cake. At any rate, sales took off rapidly, doubtless much assisted by the very dubious claims being made by its inventor. The food, he asserted, contained wild bison from America that had been hunted down by native Indians. In truth, the main ingredients were low-grade meal, vegetables, animal byproducts and blood. Soon after Spratt launched his new dog food, a number of other entrepreneurs saw the potential. All these new manufacturers, many of which were mill owners, followed the same marketing approach. They made extravagant claims for the quality of their products and employed vets for endorsements. Interestingly, the basic recipe for dried dog food and the way it's been sold has barely changed since Victorian times. The next big development in the history of dog food was Ken L. Ration, a canned food that was launched after the end of World War I when horse meat became worthless due to an oversupply. However, it was really after the Second World War, when the idea of convenience food became the norm, that all but a tiny percentage of dogs living in developed nations came to be fed on manufactured dog food. So where are we today? If the television commercials, advertisements and product labelling are to be believed, processed food is the only safe thing to feed a dog. It contains nothing but natural goodness, has been scientifically formulated and is endorsed by experts, including vets. What's more, if your dog's suffering any particular ailment, there's almost certainly a food designed to put it right. Pet food manufacturers would have it that they're your dog's best friend, but many consumers are beginning to suspect that they've been misled and deceived. There is a considerable volume of British and European legislation controlling the manufacture of dog food, but it barely considers the health of the animals eating it. Its real purpose is to protect the human food chain. One of the most telling pieces of legislation is the guidance given to pet food manufacturers, which demonstrates how little the government cares about the health and welfare of the nation's dogs. Take this extract. For pets, the main part of the risk assessment when setting the maximum permitted level for undesirable substances will generally be the extent to which the animal can tolerate them. In other words, it's legal to use undesirable substances in dog food, providing they don't kill the animal immediately. Another disturbing quote from the same guide refers to the ingredients. The material of animal origin used by the pet food industry comprises those parts of the animals which are either deemed surplus for human consumption or are not normally consumed by people in the UK and derived from animals inspected and passed as fit for human consumption prior to slaughter. This innocuous statement allows manufacturers to make their food from so-called byproducts, that's to say hooves, tails, testicles, ears and other bits of animal. It also authorises them to use ingredients that are not suitable for human consumption. The rules about labelling are also very lax. The There's no requirement, for example, that manufacturers should tell you what's in their food or in what proportions. A term like crude fibre, for example, could actually refer to sawdust. It isn't just that the legislation doesn't consider canine health, it's entirely skewed in the manufacturer's favour. They can put in almost any ingredient they want, providing it doesn't actually poison the dog, and they can be misleading in what they tell their customers. How did this happen? Since the industry came into being, manufacturers have managed to persuade both the public and legislators that they're experts and can be trusted. They've used clever marketing techniques and veterinary endorsements to great effect and have been much aided by consumer demand for convenience. The reason, incidentally, why manufacturers go to so much trouble is that the pet food market is worth billions of pounds. It isn't just the overall size of the market that makes it so attractive either. Processed dog food is incredibly profitable. As one commentator pointed out, what most consumers don't realise is that the pet food industry is an extension of the human food and agricultural industries. Pet food provides a convenient way for slaughterhouse offal, grains considered unfit for human consumption, and similar waste products to be turned into profit. Next time you buy a bag of kibble or a tin of food, you may like to stop and consider whether the company that made it really has your dog's health and well-being at the top of their agenda. Could it be that they are putting their profit before our pooches?